You know, for new parents, the moment their child is born is supposed to be this time of incredible joy. But imagine if, in an instant, all of that joy is just replaced by confusion and a whole lot of fear. Your brand new baby is suddenly whisked away to the NICU for a procedure you've never even heard of. You might hear the term cooling blanket. And if this has happened to you, you're left with one giant, overwhelming question. Why?
That feeling, that sudden shift from celebration to absolute terror, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. If you're a parent who was told your baby needed to be cooled and you're still trying to make sense of it all, this explanator is for you. We're going to break down the science, the procedure, and what it all really means.
So you're standing there, and the doctors tell you they're doing this as a protective measure. But protective against what exactly? And why was it necessary for your baby? This is the central question we're going to answer step by step.
Okay, so let's start with the medical answer. Let's get right into the treatment itself. The official term is a bit of a mouthful, but the concept behind it is actually pretty straightforward.
This is the fancy medical term for neonatal cooling. It's called therapeutic hypothermia. And essentially, what doctors are doing is intentionally lowering the baby's temperature. Why? Well, it's kind of like they're trying to hit a pause button on all these biological processes that could cause even more damage, giving the brain precious time to try and heal itself.
And look at how precise this is. This isn't just about making the baby a little chilly. This is a highly controlled, incredibly specific medical intervention. They lower the infant's core temperature to exactly 92.3 degrees Fahrenheit or 33.5 degrees Celsius.
And they maintain that exact temperature for 72 hours straight. That's 3 full days. Only after that time is up does the medical team begin a very, very slow and careful rewarming process, monitoring every single little thing along the way. So that brings us to the most important point, right? Cooling is the treatment, but what's the injury? What happened that would trigger such a drastic and immediate medical response?
The answer is a condition called Hypoxic-Ischemic Encephalopathy, or HIE for short. It's a type of brain injury, and it's caused by a lack of oxygen or blood flow to the baby's brain right around the time of birth. Cooling is the #1 treatment for moderate to severe cases of HIE. And this is absolutely crucial to understanding why cooling works. See, the brain damage from HIE doesn't happen all at once. There's the first hit, the initial injury, when the oxygen is cut off. But then a second wave of damage can happen hours later as blood flows back into the area, causing all sorts of inflammation and releasing toxins. Therapeutic hypothermia is designed to interrupt that second wave, to lessen its devastating impact.
All right, so let's move on to the protocol. Because this is such an intensive therapy, doctors don't use it lightly. And maybe even more importantly, they are in a desperate race against the clock. A baby has to meet some very, very strict clinical criteria to even be a candidate for cooling. We're talking about things like really low APGAR scores long after birth, continuing to need help breathing, and lab results from the umbilical cord showing high acid levels, which is a huge red flag for oxygen deprivation. And of course, any neurological signs like seizures are a major trigger.
And here it is. This might be the most critical part of the entire process, the timeline. All the research has shown that there's a golden window. For this cooling treatment to be effective, it must begin within 6 hours of birth. After those 6 hours, the window slams shut. The brain just doesn't seem to get the same protective benefits from the treatment. Now, understanding the treatment is one thing, but for so many families, this is where it leads to a much deeper, much more difficult question. The very fact that cooling was needed in the first place can be a significant red flag. And this is the point right here. Cooling is a response to brain damage, but it doesn't tell you why that damage happened. Was it just a tragic, unavoidable fluke of biology? Or was it something that could have and should have been prevented? This is often the starting point for families who are just desperate for answers. They start to look back at every moment of the labor, every decision that was made, to try and understand the chain of events that led to their child needing this intensive therapy. So when an investigation happens, it often looks for specific issues. Things like, did the medical team fail to react when the fetal heart monitor was clearly showing the baby was in distress? Was an emergency C-section delayed for too long? Was a complication like a prolapsed umbilical cord mismanaged? These are the types of tough questions that start getting asked. So this leads us to the long-term outlook. After the 72 hours of cooling are done and the baby is slowly rewarmed, what comes next? What does life look like for these children and their families? We have to be crystal clear here. Therapeutic hypothermia is a groundbreaking, life-saving treatment. It significantly improves outcomes and reduces the risk of severe disability. But, and this is a really big but, it is not a cure. It can't go back in time and erase the damage that happened from the initial lack of oxygen.
And because of that, even with successful cooling, many children who experienced HIE may face lifelong challenges. We're talking about conditions like cerebral palsy, developmental delays, seizure disorders, or even vision and hearing problems, things that will require a lifetime of care and support.
And this brings us right back to where we started, to those parents in the delivery room suddenly facing a crisis they never imagined. For them, getting answers isn't just about looking backward, it's about being able to prepare for the future. Knowing what happened, and more importantly, why it happened, is absolutely critical. It helps families prepare for the road ahead, it helps them advocate for their child, to fight for them, and to get the resources they're going to need. It gives them a foundation of truth in a journey that is so often filled with uncertainty.
And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. The cooling blanket is just the first sign that something went wrong. But understanding the treatment is just the beginning. For these families, the real journey to clarity starts by asking not just what happened to my child, but most importantly, why did it happen?